The sprawling Blackwood Ranch in rural Montana had been the Peterson family's legacy for 4 generations. But everything changed the day Richard Blackwood III decided that tradition was less valuable than his quarterly profit margins. The billionaire CEO of Blackwood Industries had inherited the 5,000-acre property from his grandfather along with a herd of prize-winning cattle, including Thunder, a magnificent black Angus bull worth more dead than alive in Blackwood's cold calculations. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could someone ever consider ending the life of a creature like Thunder? But this isn't just any bull. Thunder was worth more money dead than alive. At least, that's how Richard Blackwood saw it. You see, Blackwood wasn't interested in the ranch's legacy or the animals that had built the Peterson family name. To him, Thunder was just another financial burden. The bull had become too expensive to keep. Feeding him, Provide Care Blackwood estimated it was costing him $500 a day in feed and veterinary care. Simple economics, Blackwood said one afternoon during his usual inspection, his expensive Italian leather shoes clicking against the barn floor as he gestured dismissively toward Thunder's stall. The insurance payout for an accidental death would be $150,000, and I can write off the loss as a tax deduction. Easy money. I'll tell you, Tommy Martinez, the young boy working the ranch, had been listening in on this conversation, pretending to muck out the stalls nearby. But when he heard those words, something in him froze. His heart raced as he stood there, paralyzed by the thought of what Blackwood was planning. Thunder wasn't just a bull to Tommy. He was his closest companion, his best friend. At just 10 years old, Tommy had already seen more than his share of heartache. His parents died in a car accident, leaving him to live in a small caretaker's cottage with his grandfather, Jose. Jose had worked as the head groundskeeper for the Peterson family for over 30 years. He knew every inch of the land, and when Blackwood bought the ranch 6 months ago, he kept Jose on staff. But Jose knew too. Sentimentality had no place in Blackwood's business model. As the old man slowly left the barn, unable to oppose Blackwood's cold logic, Tommy stayed behind. He didn't know exactly how, but he knew he couldn't let Blackwood get away with this. Thunder didn't deserve to die for profit. Thunder had been there for Tommy when no one else had been. During the lonely months after his parents' death, Thunder had become more than just a bull. He had been a friend. He had listened to Tommy's quiet sorrows, understood the grief in his heart. And now, that same bull was about to be murdered for money. "I won't let him hurt you," Tommy whispered to Thunder that evening, sitting in the stall with his friend. He stroked the massive bull's head, promising that he would figure out a way to stop Blackwood's plan. Thunder nuzzled him gently, as if understanding. It was a bond stronger than any logic or financial plan. Thunder trusted him, and Tommy wasn't going to let that trust be betrayed. The next few days, Tommy spent quietly observing Blackwood's habits. He knew he had to be careful. Blackwood wasn't just a businessman. He was ruthless. But Tommy had something Blackwood didn't, the element of surprise. He studied the CEO's routine, overheard his phone conversations, and learned more about Blackwood's obsession with his public image. The man cared more about how people viewed him than about doing what was right. Tommy realized that Blackwood was the kind of person who could be beaten with one thing: exposure. That's when Tommy hatched a plan bold, risky, and, depending on how you looked at it, either genius or completely insane. By 6 a.m. on Friday morning, Tommy was on the phone with Channel 7 News and Billings. In his most serious voice, he tipped them off. "I have a story about animal cruelty and insurance fraud involving Blackwood Industries," Tommy said. "This is happening today. You need to be here before 2 p.m. if you want to document it." The receptionist initially dismissed him, assuming it was a prank, but Tommy didn't give up. He dropped specific details, like the insurance policy number he overheard, the exact time, and location where Blackwood was planning the accident. "Ma'am," he said, voice steady, "I'm risking everything to make this call. An innocent animal is going to die for money unless someone stops it." By 10 a.m., Tommy had called 3 other news stations, the Montana Department of Agriculture and the State Insurance Fraud Investigation Unit. He used different voices for each call, each time giving more details, ensuring that Blackwood's plan would be exposed. Then, Tommy did what he did best. He became invisible. The barn was his hiding spot, where he watched as the van from Mountain State Veterinary Services pulled into the ranch. Tommy knew they weren't real veterinarians. They were Blackwood's men's hired hands who would make Thunder's death look like an accident. Tommy's stomach churned. but he knew he had to keep focused. Around 11:30 a.m., the media arrived. Channel 7 News, and then a second and third news van, all arrived at the ranch gates. Tommy smiled. The pieces were falling into place. Blackwood had no idea what was coming. He was in the middle of moving thunder when the news crews started rolling up. Blackwood's face went white, then red with fury. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, pulling out his phone to call his security. But Tommy wasn't done. No, he had planned this down to the second. The news stations were in a frenzy, each trying to break the story first. They were already in position. By 2 p.m., they would be able to catch Blackwood in the act. "Mr. Blackwood," reporter Sarah Mitchell called out as she approached with her camera crew. "We've received reports about planned insurance fraud involving the death of livestock on this property. Would you care to comment?" The shock on Blackwood's face was priceless. He stammered, "This is private property. You're trespassing." Sarah didn't flinch. "We're standing on a public access road, and we have credible information that a crime is about to be committed here. Are you denying that you've arranged for the death of a bull named Thunder for insurance purposes?" And that's when Tommy stepped forward. Calmly, he walked toward the group of adults, leading Thunder by a rope halter. He looked directly at Sarah Mitchell, his small voice cutting through the confusion. "Are you here about Thunder?" he asked, and the whole world seemed to freeze for a moment. "Because I'm the one who called you." The adults around him turned to look, and Tommy, standing there next to the massive bull, looked directly into the camera. "This man wanted to kill my best friend for money," Tommy said, his voice unwavering. "But Thunder deserves to live, just like any other innocent creature." In that moment, the media captured every second of Tommy's courage. He stood there, facing down a billionaire with nothing but the truth. The confrontation would be replayed on national television for weeks. "Are you telling me a 10-year-old orchestrated this entire situation?" Blackwood spat, his voice shaking with disbelief. Sarah Mitchell knelt down beside Tommy, keeping the cameras rolling. "Tommy, can you tell us exactly what you overheard Mr. Blackwood say about Thunder?" Tommy recounted the conversation with perfect detail, providing specific information about the insurance policy, the planned timing, and the names of the fake veterinarians. It was undeniable. Jose, Tommy's grandfather, stood nearby, his face pale but filled with pride. Blackwood's words now sounded hollow. His empire was crumbling. Tommy's genius had worked. The media caught Blackwood in the act. The fake veterinarians panicked, and Detective Maria Santos stepped in to investigate further. By the end of the day, Blackwood was arrested for conspiracy, animal cruelty, and fraud. His world had fallen apart, and Tommy had saved his friend. The story of the 10-year-old boy who stood up to a billionaire spread like wildfire. Tommy's bravery went viral, inspiring people around the world to stand up for what was right, no matter how big or small they were. The ranch was returned to the Peterson family, and Tommy's future was secured with a college fund and the promise of a better life. Months later, Tommy stood in the winner's circle at the Montana State Fair. Thunder was awarded the prize for the best bull, the same animal Blackwood had once planned to kill for money. Tommy had not only saved his friend, but had changed his own life and the world's view on what true courage looks like. This story reminds us that no matter how small or powerless you might feel, sometimes the most powerful weapon against greed and corruption is a child's refusal to accept that wrong is inevitable. The truth, like courage, can be stronger than any fortune or power. What do you think? Do you believe that sometimes the smallest voice in the room can change everything? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. If you found this story as inspiring as we did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more powerful, real-life stories to the world.